Can't wait to find out. Hopefully it's somebody during Red River. We'll discuss Red River over the next couple of weeks. We'll get you ready for that as well. Oklahoma's moving up in the polls.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The Oklahoma Sooners moved up in both the AP and the USA Today coaches poll after their win. They moved up from number 21 to number 19 in the AP top 25 and moved up one spot to number 17 in the coaches poll. Listen, after kind of what the offseason was, all the discussion about Oklahoma's offensive line, the fact that they were kind of ranked in the mid-teens was kind of surprising a little bit. At the same time, this is a talented football team on the defensive side of the ball in particular. How do you feel about where they're at right now with the bye week ahead of Red River?
With all the movement that we saw in games like Utah losing to Arizona, which Arizona keeps hurting me. I don't know why they keep hurting me. They just love hurting me, right? When I pick them, they lose. As of late, when I don't pick them, they win. Yeah. Right. It's a baffling thing, John. So I'm just like, why do y'all treat me so bad? But with all the movement and everything that happened with all the losses and stuff, the Ole Miss loss, right? Louisville losing, that's a very fair spot for us to be. I like us in the between 25 and 15, right? Just because we're still trying to get the offense going. But to be honest, with the way that we're getting better week over week, the offense, we're seeing progressions. We're getting progressively better. I like the fact that we're still staying in that range. I think it's a fair spot for us, right? The coaches poll 17, the AP poll 19. Of course, AP always hates us. But if we can pull off this upset, man, there's no excuse not to throw us up into throw us in the top 10, right? And I think that the offense is going to show out a lot more than people expect. Yeah, true freshman quarterback, but we've seen a true freshman quarterback play against Texas before, right? Actually, decent Texas team. We'll say that. That 2021 team was okay, I guess you could say. But I can anticipate that we'll go out there and look a lot better than what people anticipate. And I see that the line hasn't even been dropped yet for that game. So that tells me that the odds makers are still trying to figure out what exactly to do and to make of us and them. But John, there's like controversy when it comes to who's sitting here at number one now. And this is what's fascinating. So Texas was number one in the AP poll and number two in the coaches poll last week. Right. This week, they moved up to Alabama moved up to number one AP poll, but then moved down. And then moved up to number two in the coaches poll. And Texas actually moved up over Georgia. So it was like a Georgia-Texas thing. Now it's a Texas-Alabama thing. I'm intrigued that the coaches, or their assistants, actually think that Texas is better than Bama, and the AP thinks Bama is better than Texas.
Yeah. So, hey, I put Alabama at number one in my SEC power rankings over at Sooners Wire, just because they've got the most significant win on the season. Actually, they've got, arguably two really significant wins. That big blowout of Wisconsin just a few weeks back, plus this win over Georgia. And again, like, they kind of went to sleep a little bit in the second half. You're up so big in that game, and they kind of let Georgia back into it. Now, Georgia kind of played some hero ball as that game went on and were able to work themselves into the game. But listen, that's a really good Georgia team that's going to be a playoff team. And Alabama jumped out to a huge lead early in that game. So I bumped them up to number one. Again, the most significant win of the season in the SEC for me. Listen, that win against Michigan for Texas was really good. I'm not going to sit here and say it wasn't. That's a really, really good rushing offense, but their quarterback situation is cheeks. It's terrible. So Oklahoma, this in Red River will be the best quarterback test Texas has faced this year, even with Michael Hawkins as a true freshman. He's a better passer than anybody that Texas has faced this season. So listen, Texas is a good team. I'm not going to sit here and hate on them and dunk on them and say they haven't played anybody. They've played who's on their schedule, and they've beat them emphatically.
Yeah, everybody.
I just think Alabama right now has shown to be the best team in the SEC and the best team in the nation.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. Now, the one thing I'll give to Texas is that going to the big house and beating Michigan and making Michigan basically submit, that was to me a little bit more impressive than
That's
I
impressive.
thought, right?
Yeah,
and it's only because Michigan plays bully ball. That's their
Yeah.
game. Their game plan is to muddy the game up, run it down your throat, push you around, and Texas didn't allow it, right? They made them go be one-dimensional. They said, nah, you're not going to just run down our throat. You're going to pass that ball. You have no choice. But Michigan can't throw, right? They don't have, and they don't have a quarterback. I mean, you would think they would play more Alex Orji, but Alex doesn't threaten you even as a runner because he really doesn't pass. You know that when he gets the ball, he's probably going to run the ball. They're not throwing it. They played Davis Warren the entire game, and he wasn't good.
Inaccurate. Terrible.
He's very much inaccurate. He was trying to give the game away, it felt like. And so now Texas got to go up against a quarterback, luckily, that not only can run and scramble, but he can launch that thing deep. So it's going to be fascinating to see what Texas' game plan is for Michael Hawkins. I mean, I wonder if they're going to go out there and look at him as if Caleb Williams is playing again. Buddy of mine was like, man, I think that Michael's playing similar to the way Caleb did as a freshman, and I could see it in some ways. Other ways, I have questions about some of the decisions that we need to make sure that we have him make, especially in a game of this magnitude. It's going to be, I mean, if you thought Auburn was hostile, he's about to feel it now, which I know he's been to some Red River, so he understands that. But at the same time, yeah, it's going to be a lot of different animals. Because truth be told, I feel like the Palace was louder and more rowdy than it was. Well, technically it was based upon the decibel readings, right? The decibel readings when we played against Tennessee was one of the highest since like LSU a couple years ago. At its peak, it wasn't as brutal as I thought. Now, fans were getting a little bit into it, but you could tell that they kind of quit on that team. It was pretty bad. Like the ticket prices, John, they were cheap. They were very cheap to move down. Those Auburn fans kind of was like, yeah, we're done with this team. They just washed their hands. And I see why. They break your heart so often. I mean, it's a tradition as old as the game itself. It's pretty depressing, but at the same time, I do like that. Overall, I do like in the polls that we're sticking where we are, and I think it's a safe spot for us right now.
Yeah, I'm not too terribly concerned about Michael Hawkins in Red River. He's shown that regardless of the situation, the environment, the circumstances, the guy's got the mentality to withstand it. You know, coming in down 19-3 at the end of the second half, he looked comfortable. Going into Jordan-Hare Stadium, he looked comfortable, even backed up at the 1 yard line in his own end zone, trying to navigate and orchestrate the offense to get out of the end zone. So at least Luke Elzinga has more room to punt from. So I'm not at all concerned about what his headspace is going to be like going into the Red River Showdown. Will he be under more pressure? Probably. It's a really, really good Texas team. It's a much better Texas team than Auburn is. But I think he's got the mentality to hold up under that pressure and hold up under the weight of the circumstances. He's just shown that he's got the right stuff. He just has the right stuff to play the position and to go be successful. And now you got 2 weeks. It'll be 3 weeks by the time you get to Red River of first team snaps with your healthy offensive line, with a wide receiver crew that is starting to show out a little bit more. And hopefully Deion Burks gets back and you can make him a part of the offense as well. I don't know. I feel okay. Do I think Oklahoma is going to win? I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know yet. I don't think we should put our prediction in until next Wednesday.
I mean, I've given you my preseason predictions. I've given you preseason predictions that I think Oklahoma can win the game. We'll see. We'll see where we're going to be at come next Thursday when we drop or Friday when we drop our actual predictions. We'll have our crossover with Locked On Longhorns next week as well, so that will be a fun time, I'm sure, with a lot of stuff being thrown around. We'll just say that.
A lot of yapping
from those folks over at Locked On Longhorns who are feeling themselves with Texas at 1 and 2 in the polls. But that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in, being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. Also, go check out the Locked On Sooners Insider Program. You can join by texting Sooners to 405-817-6711. You'll get your first 2 weeks free. And again, you can interact with Jay and I over there. Ask us questions that we will feature on the show. That's at 405-817-6711 to join the Locked On Sooners Insider Program. And also go follow the show over on all the social media platforms at Locked On Sooners. Follow Jay at Unfair Sports, myself at John 9 Williams. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. Boomer.
Sooner.